So good afternoon, everyone. It's this has been a long time coming, and I'm thrilled to be here. I almost didn't get here because of the extreme weather, but it all worked out. So I'm very glad to see the room full. I'm very glad to be a part of this conversation. So we'll skip a lot of the reading, but I want to spend my time with you talking a little bit about what project program construction management looks like in the U.S. context, particularly with respect to capital projects and programs, not just vertical, but horizontal as well. But then I also want to talk a little bit about the association and what associations can offer. I see an association kind of brewing in this room. We'll talk about how to get that started. So it's important, I learned earlier this year, I've always known, it's very important to know sort of what we're talking about and to make sure that we're using words that we mutually understand. And so this is what we mean by program and construction management in the United States context. It's a professional service. It's provided by trained, qualified professionals. It's used both by owners, project owners, and service providers. And it's about using industry standard best practices to manage programs and projects successfully. So what do we mean by the two, program and project, or program and construction? What we're talking about, and what my colleagues and the previous speakers have also talked about, is early involvement and the importance of inception to completion. Program and project and construction management does not, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many of you are concerned, does not begin when we start digging. It begins when we start planning. So inception to completion. Programs consist of multiple projects. Project management and construction management as a largely, generally refer to individual pieces of a larger program. Program and construction management professionals provide services across all phases of a project. In the US context at CMAA, we talk about the 5 phases: pre-design, design, procurement, construction, and post-construction. And the previous speaker spent a great deal of time making an excellent case for early involvement in pre-design and design. There's a wonderful diagram, which I did not have time to include in my slides today, that really shows how the ability to affect design changes drops over the course of a project, and how the cost of changes dramatically increases. So the closer, you all know this, you've all lived it, the closer you get to the end, when someone says, oh, I think this really needs to be something else, now things are more expensive, now schedules are off, now no one is happy. I see some smiles. You all have friends who have had this problem. None of you have ever had this problem. Your cousin had this problem. So we advocate and emphasize the importance of early involvement, particularly before we even think about contracts. But it's also important in the United States to understand that context is everything. So I created this image to remind me and to share with an international audience the difference in the United States, where everything is done at the most local level. It's not the federal government who decides how to build the interchange. It's the state of Missouri or the state of Virginia. It's not a city that decides to build a new school. It's the school district, which is a tiny subset of a county or a state. So all of these elements of any kind of program or project are being decided by local school boards, local town councils, local municipalities, county commissions, and state departments of transportation. So what are we delivering when we talk about project delivery? So there used to be words on this slide, but they kind of wandered off. But we're talking about everything. We're talking about buildings. We're talking about highways and bridges. We're talking about energy plants. We're talking about water, wastewater. We're talking about utility companies, ports. You have a beautiful port. There are ports all over the United States. We're talking about airports. We're talking about transit systems. We're also talking about multifamily housing. But here's the big question. What are we spending? In the United States alone, we're spending, $2.1 billion a year. Just a little money, you know. There was a senator in the United States who used to say, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Now you're talking real money. This is what we're talking about. And we're talking about the difference between public and private money. And I think when we think about it in the US, we're thinking about the difference between, say, what is Amazon spending on last mile delivery compared to what is the state of Connecticut spending on new highways and interchanges. And this is how that divides up. Now the data set that I have divides this into education, highway, and everything else. Not always the best way to divide stuff up, but this is sort of how it looks. So another definition, when we talk about it amongst the membership of CMAA and we're talking about project delivery methods, what we're really talking about is the contractual relationship between all the parties. And it's intended to satisfactorily complete a project from conception to occupancy. And it determines how stakeholders are engaged. And one of the things that's extraordinary, it's at top of mind, top of list for the Construction Management Association of America, is that we are delivery method neutral. You should have one. Doesn't matter to us at all which one. And what are some of those methods? Some of these may be familiar to you, some may be more unique to the United States. But we talk about construction management at risk. We talk about design, bid, build, engineer, procure, construct. There's also a variation, engineer, procure, construct, and operate. Integrated project delivery, and then public-private partnerships. And so who chooses? Well, the owner chooses, right? It's the Connecticut Department of Transportation that's going to choose, or Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, or the city of Tacoma Park, Maryland. And they choose based on on what they're expecting to have at the end of the day. The airport example that I mentioned will use design, bid, build if they are replacing something almost exactly for what they have. So a service vehicle garage needs to be replaced. They're going to design, bid, build. But that airport is also building a brand new terminal. And so they're more interested in using design build because it brings different expertise into the conversation much earlier in the sequence. So the owner chooses based on what their needs are and what their goals are. Now this may be a little hard to see, but we recently surveyed owners in the CMAA world and asked them what delivery methods are they using and with what frequency. And this is sort of what we get. Design, bid, build still leads the way, particularly for public organizations, public agencies, because they have rules about competition and conflicts of interest and et cetera and so forth. In many US jurisdictions, the design build methodology has to be authorized by the state legislature. Some have, some haven't. But then there are private owners that are using largely other methodologies. So this is what we learned. The survey's available. I did not bring all my QR codes with me, but if you want a copy of our most recent owner survey, happy to make that available to you. But this is what we've learned. Delivery methods are evolving. This is, as architects would say, form follows function. So we're seeing more and more sort of variations on the theme of these different delivery methods. Design build is the second most frequently used method in the US. P3s, public-private partnerships, are more and more and more being used by foreign investors coming into the US market. We're seeing this especially in transportation. And CM at risk is more appealing to private owners than it is to public owners. Okay, this QR code, please take a moment. Feel free to snap it, download the report. We spent some time talking to members and owners about the roles and responsibilities of construction management professionals across delivery methods, because there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of mythology out there about, well, we only use CM when we use design, bid, build. It's really only appropriate for this one kind of delivery method, and we really believe that's not true. And this report takes the time to describe how each of these, how the full range of services from a program and construction management professional apply across the phases of construction, regardless of delivery method. So we're really excited about it. We like to give it away for free. You should take it, make sure you get a copy for yourself, share it with your colleagues, share it with your cousin, whoever it is you'd like to send it on to. We spent a lot of time in the United States thinking about credentials. I noticed in the bios for today's speakers, several of us have letters after our names. So what is the importance and what are the differences around credentials? And credentials and credentialing is very important to CMAA. It's one of the very first things CMAA developed when it was founded in the early 1980s. So why do they matter? Well, they matter because they demonstrate something. They demonstrate your professional competence, your leadership and professionalism. They can increase your marketability. When I was recruited for the position I have now, those three letters after my name, CAE, in the position description it said CAE preferred. Now that stands for Certified Association Executive. That said something to the search committee about my credentials. In our universe, we talk about the CCM, and I'll share more about that later. That says something in this context about the qualifications of an individual working in program and construction management. They improve opportunities for advancement. We've already seen this with a credential that's available to younger, early career professionals. It validates your knowledge. You get a chance to say, yeah, I know some things. I'm not crazy. And this is a good thing that I do, and here's proof that I know what I'm doing. It demonstrates commitment to your industry, and, you might get a raise. Wouldn't that be cool? So there's some important differences. We spend a lot of time working through this, especially with people who don't always understand the differences in our different credentials. But we have certificates. I'm sure everyone is familiar with these. Often these are given at the end of a series of courses. You might take 3 courses at a local university or through a software company. Microsoft has lots of certificates. Those are generally awarded to demonstrate completion of a term of study in a specific topic. Certification is a credential that requires examination. It's voluntary, and generally they're given by third-party organizations like CMAA. Some of those of you who may have lead credentials may be familiar with these. If you have a PMP, for example, that's an example of this, and our credentials are also an example. Then there's licensure or registration, which varies around the world. In the United States, it's regulated at the state level, and this is about you as an individual professional being licensed to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. So doctors are licensed, attorneys are licensed, engineers are licensed, architects are licensed. So in the United States, we talked a little bit about this already. Certificates often come from independent third-party organizations, non-governmental organizations, or schools. Certifications come from third-party organizations, and registration comes from U.S. jurisdictions. So if anyone here is an architect, any architects? Anybody willing to admit that they were trained as an architect? There's one in the back. Awesome. If you wanted to practice architecture in the United States, if coming from Iceland, you would have to choose a state in which to be licensed and then work your way through the process. That's going back to my original comment about everything's local. That's how this is managed. How many people here were trained or educated as engineers? Oh yeah, this is what my membership looks like, right? 70% engineers. This is also true for engineering. If you would like to practice engineering in the United States, you'll have to be licensed to practice engineering in an individual state. The industry benefits when you have credentials. The industry has the benefit of your knowledge, your expertise, your demonstrated leadership and skill. It's a tangible commitment on the part of your company to public safety and to the consumer protection. Most credentials have an ethical conduct element. We actually had to revoke someone's credential because they behaved unethically, so it happens. And it just demonstrates not only yours, but your organization's commitment to long-term education and improved efficiency. And why do they hire? For all those same reasons. Top talent, it's a way to demonstrate your success. And in some cases, similar to my colleague's comment about the use of 360 visual information, it can sometimes reduce risk. If a bonding agency or an insurance company knows that the people working on a project have a particular set of credentials, then they have a better knowledge and expectation of success, and so the expense of insurance may go down. And you can get credentials all kinds of places. That's not an exhaustive list, that's just the ones that would fit on the slide. So who are we? Who am I to stand up here and talk to you today? So the Construction Management Association of America was founded in 1982, and by 1986, they had already written their first standards of practice. This is our vision and our mission. We believe strongly in the program and construction management profession and its contribution to the built environment. Our role is to promote, educate, develop, and support professionals, and we believe that we build better. This number is already out of date. We have 28,000 members. We have over 17,000 individuals hold one of our credentials, and we're a 24-person staff in a fully remote environment. We didn't start out planning to be a 24-person staff in a fully remote environment. As I imagine in March of 2020, many of you were not planning to work in a fully remote environment. But with the pandemic came an opportunity. And so we now, in about 2 weeks, we will have staff in every US time zone. So I talked a little bit about this at the beginning. So this is just a little bit of our history. Founded in 1982, the very first edition of the Standards of Practice was issued in 1986. The most recent edition was in 2022. There have been several in between. We did not wait 40 years to update it. We established a code of conduct. We created our own foundation, and we started CMCI, which is Construction Managers Certification Institute. This is the organization, this is the part of our organization that manages our credentialing process. We started publishing our body of knowledge, and we started making it bigger. I was visiting with a group of members a few years ago who looked at the list of publications and said, I thought there were only 7. And I said, well, there were 7, but then we began to understand that the needs and the profession and the knowledge and the expertise was growing. And so now we have like 13. We started a program for young professionals called CMIT. We completely overhauled it 6 or so years ago. We added interim credential for CACM. I'm kind of rushing through the recent history. We've started working with more and more partner organizations, and we've branched out internationally, which is one of the reasons I think I got invited to talk today. So what's the secret sauce for us? It's these four: professional development, member engagement, credentials, and advocacy. So professional development, we offer a number of courses. They start with our construction management principles course, which is offered in person, online. Our PCM course, which is offered in person, virtually, synchronously, and online asynchronously. If anyone in this room wanted to take the professional construction manager course asynchronously, you could. You'd sign up today. And you would have, I think it's about 3 weeks to finish it on your own time. So if you wanted to do it at, 1 in the morning in your bathrobe, you could. But if you wanted to do it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe with a beverage, you could do that too, as long as you finish within the 3 weeks. CCM Build Up, this is a program that prepares you for our CCM exam. It focuses on exam questions, test prep, all of the things that go with that. Train the Trainer is for individuals who want to teach our courses. And then we are continuing to build this CM Essentials group around advanced scheduling, ethical practice, negotiating success. And we talked earlier about claims, right? Every now and then the attorneys get involved. And so we do actually have a course that prepares you for when you have to sit and give a deposition. It's unfortunately very popular. We also offer a whole series of online modules that map directly to our standards of practice. I'll go back one. There we go. These are sort of on your own time, quizzes, questions, et cetera, and so forth. And then we have publications, and we are issuing either a revised edition or a new edition every 6 to 8 months, which for CMAA is fast. We're very excited that for our domestic market anyway, we're translating into Spanish. I'm not sure we're quite ready to translate into Icelandic, but maybe we can make a case for it. What do we talk about when we talk about member engagement? Well, we talk about what's happening right now. Rooms with people sitting at tables talking about their common interests and their common problems and their common success, sharing their, what did you do about the time when the thing and the mud and the mudslide and the water, building on each other's knowledge, building and learning from each other, and sharing, just being in a room full of people who understand what you do and who can sit with you and go, yes, I'm not crazy. So what does that look like for us? Well, we have our 2 conferences. These are the next 2. You are, of course, are all welcome to come. We will be in Las Vegas in March for our Focus Conference, which is small, about 300 people. Very interactive, very much about learning and engaging and spending time together. And then our big national conference will be in Denver in October. We just finished this year's. It was in Nashville. I can't believe it was only a week and a half ago, but we had 1,336 people, second highest attended conference ever. Very excited about that. Well, what does that look like? It looks like this. It looks like people together. It looks like name tags. Of course, it looks like name tags. You can see our Robbie Thompson is wearing his. It's people in classrooms. It's panels. It's interactive. It's learning. It's a really good time. And this is this year's, I think this is the thing, yeah. This year's International Roundtable, and I think you'll see some familiar faces who joined us for our conversation in Nashville. So I've talked a little bit about credentials. I'm going to skip through some of this. I'm going to take the time to show you this slide. One of the things that CMAA believes is really important is career building and career development. And our credentials are designed to encourage career building and career development. But that doesn't mean that you have to go through all of the steps. And it doesn't mean that you can't sort of enter the sequence at different places. So they start with the construction manager in training stackable credential, which has 4 levels. Individuals go through that completely on their own time. It combines learning with our online modules around the professional services around the domains, project management, cost management, time management, sustainability, et cetera. And then it combines that with leadership skills, like communication skills, like time management for yourself, for example. Then there's a period of experience that's required and an examination. Once you complete the one level, move on to the next. What we're seeing is that the average time to completion for all 4 levels is less than 2 years. Now, if you decide, or you have someone on your team who wants to go through the whole thing, if they do all 4 levels, they are ready, they have the eligibility, they have met the eligibility requirements, maybe with a few more weeks of responsible in charge experience for the CACM, the Certified Associate Construction Manager. The Certified Associate Construction Manager is somebody who's in that kind of in-between place. They're not really a brand new employee, but they don't have as much responsible in charge experience as might be required for the CCM. But they're growing and they're learning. They're an asset to your organization, and you want to encourage them. And then the CCM remains our pinnacle credential, requires 4 years responsible in charge experience. Every credential has a combination of education, experience, and examination. If you have a different education experience, you might have a longer experience requirement. Everybody has to pass the test. But we also have on-ramps in a whole variety of places. You don't have to do all of these if you have already met the eligibility requirements for the CCM. Just go there. If you have met the eligibility requirements for the CACM, you don't have to do CMIT first. You can just go there. And depending on your education and your experience in the profession, you will meet the eligibility requirements. I'm very pleased to say that 15 years ago, we moved the whole application process online, which made it a whole lot easier for everyone to complete. And we do have a number of people who do love to complain about the process before that because it was labor and paper intensive. And we all remember something about our careers that was labor and paper intensive. It just stays with you. But now you can do it online. It moves very quickly. So I have also moved very quickly. I apologize if this is wrong. I asked the internet to translate it. But does anyone have any questions? Don't be shy. Yeah, sorry. It was kind of a fire hose experience.
There's a man here with a microphone. Please raise your hands.
Please raise your, stand up, wave. Please.
Hi, thank you for a good presentation. I work at ILTVA for JTV.
Okay.
About those credentials.
Sure.
You were talking about the state, the level, or the levels. Do you need to, can you, like if you have a tender or something, does these credentials, do you have to qualify for the tender using those credentials, having those credentials?
That is a great question, and thank you very much for asking it. So going back to the everything is local, right? So you have the school district decides it wants to do a school, or you have the, I keep picking on Connecticut, let's pick a different state. You have the Maryland Department of Transportation. Actually, that's a very good example. How many of you are familiar with the damage to the bridge in Baltimore? Is this a familiar story to most? So this is the Key Bridge. It got rammed by a container ship. It collapsed. It's being rebuilt. We have a chapter in Maryland, in the Baltimore area, and they advocated with the State Department of Transportation to make the CCM preferred on the contract, on the offers for that, for the project program management services for that bridge. That we see that more and more. So each owner will make its own decisions based on what it's doing, how big it, whatever it is. More and more and more, as one does it, then another one does it, then another one does it, then another one does it. So they are, because of the way contracting and procurement law is written in the United States, they can't require it, but they can prefer it. So we're seeing more and more and more. We have a whole list on our website of the ones we know about for sure, but there are more out there. Yeah, thank you for the question. Other questions? I should lean in. Other questions? Yes. Oh. Excuse me.
Hi,
Hi.
My name is Agnar. I'm CEO of Snemma. I'm just wondering, in your opinion, what makes you different from the PMP or the IPMA?
Thank you for the question. It's one I get asked a lot. The PMP is an excellent credential for general project management. It was, its history begins, its origin story is in the software industry. So it works really well for software and projects that are kind of like software, but it lacks the specific industry standards, best practices, and knowledge around construction and project delivery. What my colleagues say all sorts of things about PMI, but what we really believe is that you could start there, but then we would encourage you to move. If your intention is to have a long career in program and construction management, we would recommend the CCM as your next step. I would say, so I have to confess that I'm not as familiar with the requirements for that credential as I should be. I realized that this morning when I got off the plane. But I think one of the things that CMAA is looking at is what are the other credentials in project and construction management around the world, and where does the CCM fit, and where are there opportunities for reciprocity? Where might there be gaps? It's a very much a long game kind of project.
I can maybe support a little bit with the IPMA because I'm self-certified in IPMA. So for me, it's more like general. IPMA is more like a general certification than CMAA. It's more like industry specific. So I don't know the PMP, I don't know that so much, but I know IPMA because I have that myself.
Right.
And I know this. So IPMA is like also more general certification in stjórnun and things like this, so general things, but construction management is more specific, more tools, more, at least to my knowledge.
I'm going to mess everybody up, sorry. Don't look, it'll make you dizzy. Of course, it's at the beginning. Come on, work with me. So these are the domains. This first column. Oop, I make it work. Yeah, this started. See, this first column. These are the domains that are covered by the CMAA standards of practice. These are the domains that in which an eligible CCM candidate has to have had some experience, and these are the domains that you're tested on in the examination for the CCM. Same also for the CACM, but the distribution, essentially the percentage of questions related to each domain is slightly different between the two. Next question. Other questions? I think we still have time. I can't see the clock.
We have time for several questions. I have one.
Yes.
Is there a university program in the U.S. where you can
learn all this
learn
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, there are quite a few actually. We have a partner organization, the Associated Schools of Construction. They have over 150 institution members. These are colleges and universities in the United States and abroad that offer degrees, either 2 or 4 year or graduate degrees in construction management and construction science.
All right.
Yeah, they recently expanded their international region to include Europe and the South Pacific, Oceania.
I would also be interested to know your thoughts on what kind of skills the future construction manager needs.
It's a great, thank you for asking it. It's a great question because it includes all of this, right? Time, schedule, cost, quality, safety, scope, et cetera, and so forth. But what we're seeing more and more, and the previous speaker alluded to this, is the need for communication skills, people management skills, qualitative reasoning, quantitative reasoning, research, decision making, the ability to develop a team into a successful collaborative group, lots of interpersonal skills. She hates it when I tell this story on her, but our brand new chair once said to me, I don't want to hire any more engineers. I don't need more designers. I need people managers. I need people who are willing to stand up in front of a client and give a presentation. These are the kinds of skills. And in our CMIT stackable credential, these are some of the skills that are being developed alongside the technical skills in each of these areas.
So this would be a good combination of technical and people skills.
We have a former chair exactly who says program and construction management is a social activity. It is, and I see some nods around the room. Its success relies heavily on the connections that you make with people and your ability to manage people, your ability to develop people. I mean, those of us in this room are not going to be running our organizations forever, even though we might like to think that. And so bringing up the next group, right? Finding the next person who's interested in business development. We have a relationship with another organization, the Society for Marketing Professional Services. This is the professional society in the United States for the people who write proposals and the people who are developing the early relationships with current and potential clients. The more those individuals know about how a project happens, what does it mean to have the right conditions to pour concrete, or how much lead time is there now for steel, the more they know about that, the better the relationships they can build with their clients. Likewise, the more construction management professionals understand about business development and relationship building, the better the whole team works in delivering the final product. Yep.
How is the situation in the U.S. In terms of how convinced clients are to hire or involve construction management professionals?
I would say that some, it's a mixed result. We have some clients like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers who understand it, who get it, whose own employees are being encouraged to get credentialed, who, when they hire service providers, are preferring the credential, similar to the question that you asked. And then we have some, and I would say this is our challenge and our opportunity. We have, in the United States, we have everything from, I'll use them again as an example, Amazon, which is building last mile delivery all over the country. And that program is huge. It's billions of dollars. We have Amazon Web Services and Iron Mountain that are building data centers all over the country, and that program is huge. And they fully understand the value of having construction management professionals who are employed by Amazon and construction management professionals that they may bring in to augment their staffs or to supplement the service. But then we also have, the Mingo County, West Virginia School District, which is going to build one school every 15 years. And that school board gets some of its funding from the state, and they have to figure out the rest. And so they freak out about the cost. And they say, oh, no, we can't afford this. We can't afford this additional fee on our project because we only have X. We only have $1.5 million to spend on this school. And for that county, that would be a lot of money. It's one of the most impoverished counties in West Virginia. But going back to that curve, right? Ability to influence function and ability to influence cost and function, capability and function, cost of design changes. The more we can concentrate people's attention on the front end of that, right? Pre-design, design, decision-making, early decision-making. You talked about the importance of early decision-making. Then the less that school district is going to have to pay because they're already going to have decided what kind of lights they're going to put in that room. They've already figured out what the acoustical tile is going to look like. Now, they may open up the ground and find something really frightening underneath and have to deal with that. But that's not the same thing. So the more we can encourage early involvement, the more we encourage and show the value of the service at the front end as avoiding a problem. It's hard to prove a negative, right? You bring in the expertise at the front end, but that helps you to save a problem at the end, a really expensive problem at the end, or, God forbid, no change orders. Everyone's laughing like that could happen, right? But imagine if early involvement resulted in no change orders. What a fantastic story to be able to share with your colleagues and with the profession. And for the owner to say, we brought him in early. It cost us a little bit extra in the first third of the project, but we didn't have any change orders. Mm-hmm. That's a good feeling for everybody, I think.
So the construction manager pays for
the
itself.
Construction manager the service can pay for itself. Yeah, I think you have one more hand.
Yeah, just came to my mind that you were established in 1980s.
In the 80s, yes.
As I understand, one of the roles that you as an organization have been having is educating the industry in the need of professionalism, construction management. I'm a strong believer in management. That's obvious because that's what I do. That's what I love, and that's why we are here.
Right.
So how did you? Is that? Am I correct? That was one of your aim to educate the clients, the public clients or private, that it is important. It's important to have engineers, architects, but to have a good control.
Absolutely.
So how have you done it? And
magic. It was magic.
Am I correct that this is one of your roles?
It's a great question because, and it is our role, and it has changed over the last 40 years or so. In 1982, in the United States, the founders of the organization believed that construction, and experienced that construction management services were not understood as a professional service. They were at the time understood as an add-on by the contractor that anybody could do. It wasn't hard. And there were a lot of people who said, no, actually, it is a professional service and it is difficult to do and to do well. And so almost the first 30 years of the organization was built around the nature of the professional service, the professionalizing of the service, and the value of the individual as a professional. And so that, the body of knowledge, the standards of practice, the credentialing, constant engagement and education of owners and owner organizations. And also what these all are, right? What is time management? What is cost management? What does all this mean? And what we've seen since it started before I came on board, but we have seen it more and more since, is that we see there are more owners and professionals in the room who essentially say, oh yes, of course it's this. Of course it's a profession. Of course it requires, credentials are valued. Of course it covers this range of topics. But what else does it cover? And what is the real value of the service? And so the conversation has changed. We are still every now and then finding ourselves in front of the Mingo County, West Virginia School District talking about why it matters to them. But we also see more and more owners saying, you know what, this is valuable. We want this. We want it for our people. We want it for our people. And we want it for the people that we hire to work with us. And then what is the real secret sauce, right? And we talked a little bit about the real secret sauce of this is the leadership skills and the technical skills together, leading the work from the very, very beginning to the very, very end. So it's changed. It's changed. But I'm glad it's changed. I'm glad we're not where we were 43 years ago, but we really are in a different place as an organization. But we continue to believe in education, professional development, credentialing, member engagement, and when we advocate, we're advocating for the profession. We're not advocating for candidates. We're advocating around the importance of the credential, the importance of credentialed professionals, the importance of successful procurement.
Do we have one last question from the audience? Let's give a warm round of applause.
Thank you all very much.
Andrea Rutledge.